Thank you for being here today, and thank you for the people that will have the opportunity to look at this webinar offline later on. This is the third webinar in this period organized by Gatekeeper, and this is a public one. So the intention is to convey a message to a general topic on the work that we are doing in Gatekeeper. And in this occasion, the work that is related to the creation of a sustainable business. And then for this afternoon, we have a panel of 4 people. I'm Sergio Guillén, the coordinator, deputy project coordinator and business cluster manager. And together with me today is Marta Perez, who works in integrated health solutions in Medtronic. She is coordinator of activities in the project, all them related with this business cluster. Rohit Ail, the head of health and innovation in Samsung Research in UK. Is also one of our key managers in innovation manager and leader of the exploitation task, which is one of the biggest tasks in the Gatekeeper. And Francisco Piañez, who is professor in the Open University, and then is a partner in Open Evidence company. He's also our impact manager and is leader in the impact and socio-economic assessment task, as well collaborating in other activities. So these are we are let's say the persons that are leading, let's say the work in this cluster that I will explain in what the cluster consists later on. So this is the topics. These are the topics that we'll cover in this webinar. I just give you a short introduction on the business cluster, and then the first concept on business model of Gatekeeper. Marta will talk about the ecosystem. Rohit will talk about the exploitation and what are the potentials for Gatekeeper. And Francisco will talk about the impact and socio-economic assessment, how we are approaching this important activity in Gatekeeper. So I have to say that here the business cluster is a group of activities that are all related to the end, to the succeed and the capacity to produce a very high impact in society by Gatekeeper. This is an innovation project, and what is really important is that we have a keeping an eye on the capacity to create new business for the participants and also for all the stakeholders in the domain, or we'll see later. And then we have the capacity to produce a relevant impact, to be not once project more, but also a flagship in the European Union. So these are in this slide show you the fundamental activities that are programmed in our work plan, and which are all connected in this cluster. Exploitation, business model, and sustainability is one of these. The ecosystem, building, management, and enlargement, the impact activities and socio-economic assessment, dissemination and communication, open calls. This is one of the tools that we are going to use for the enlargement of the ecosystem. Also, several activities that are related to creating the framework conditions and value for the Gatekeeper, like a certification strategy, a governance for procurements, and also a tool that will contribute to the enlargement of the ecosystem. So the mission of the business cluster is to address from the beginning, from the conception to the final condition for implementation of the exploitation plan, based on a validated business model. This is the aim, to maximize the impact, as I said before, and we are going to start in this work since the beginning. I have to say, we have started at the level of the proposal, so it is fundamental part in our plan of work, the implementation of this exploitation plan with all these consequences. So the approach of the business cluster is mission target. It's an activity that will basically dedicate to coordinate, orient, first of all, defining objectives and indicators for achievement of all these activities that I mentioned before, to coordinate the actions towards that common high-level objective, and to drive the activities help in this work that belongs to this cluster, obviously toward the achievement of the goal. So it is clear that we are not an operational group, but this is a group of coordination and harmonization of everything that is produced in this area towards the achievement of the goals of the project. So I will introduce some basic concepts in the gatekeeper business model. Definitely, this is a big job. It's a big work that we have just only started, and it will deserve, as you see, a lot of work in the next, the coming months and years. So starting with the concept that was initially set in the front page of our project is the gatekeeper, that we call it in that moment, the gatekeeper marketplace, which is really a business environment. This marketplace must join together across a common high-level objective and interest to many different types of stakeholders. Those fundamental or more, let's say, evident stakeholders are those that I'm showing here, from citizens, caregivers, consumer technology companies, SMEs, medical technology companies, healthcare operators, hospital service providers, and healthcare national, regional, local agency. So we are going from the simple individual to the high-level healthcare organizations in the European regions. So what is this gatekeeper marketplace? It is a space for open, trusted-based marketplace for matching ideas, technologies, user needs, and processes. This is what we said in our front page of the project. And around all this, there are what we call the business spaces. So we have to say in a more let's say practical terms that the marketplace is a regulated business environment that is going to be created by Gatekeeper. Now we have to say that this is a business environment for healthcare domain stakeholders. There are many domains: energy, environment, industry, where there is a lot of activities and work on digitization and so forth. This is the one that we are working in, the healthcare domain, and with all the healthcare domain stakeholders, and including the individuals. We are not talking only on patients, we are talking on individuals, because individuals is in the center of the society and is in contact with all the domains that I already mentioned. But in particular, we are interested in individuals that are in contact with the healthcare system and then the healthcare domain. for what we are creating this business environment. First of all, it's an environment where we can understand, we are producing the necessary or the needed tools and media to exchange ideas and needs, to understand what the people need and what the organization needs. This is an environment to create technologies. This is an innovation project. So this is more than research. It is the confirmation of the capacity of implementation in the real world. What we have done in the project and in the future. So we have to produce a business environment to create technologies, products, and services. We are creating this business environment to share data. This is fundamental in this moment. This is totally in line with the strategy of the European Union of creating the European data space. And we are part of this. So this is a mandatory and a fundamental characteristic of our environment, business environment in the healthcare domain. And this is also a space that will allow organizations to procure solutions and know-how. So it is not an easy task. It's not easy to achieve. There are references in the market of other marketplaces. However, there are big differences, and we have to deal with that. So going into the more lower detail level, we have here a kind of simplification, or just only a presentation of the idea in order to see how we are going to go through them in the implementation of this on the definition. Of this business model. So we initially, as mentioned in the previous slide, Gatekeeper, this marketplace, is a model. Okay. In this model, we have, let's say, different operational or transactional spaces. Transactional means interaction that exchange value between two or more organizations. This is a transaction. And normally a transaction might imply exchange of money or not, but transaction is an interaction, exchange of value between different participants. So there are three operational spaces that we call initially the space. The first one is the creation space. The second is the consumer, and the third is the healthcare. It was defined in our proposal, and then we follow with this same definition. There is a fourth space, which is more than being operational, is organizational. This is the space where we set the governing rules, and we execute that governing rules to control, to allow, to enable the interactions between members, between stakeholders within each space, and interaction across the spaces. So this is the fourth, and we call it a transaction space because it's the governing rules of the gatekeeper. So if we go to now into understanding what is going to happen in each of these spaces, the healthcare is in the top of the layer that I showed before. Is a marketplace that connects healthcare organizations with technological suppliers through the Gatekeeper business platform. So Gatekeeper business platform will create that environment in order that technology supplier and healthcare customers interact. And there are, like in all these platform business models, the two sides, in the platform, the demand and the supply side. The business platform service supplier is one of is in the supply side. This is permanently in our model, because this is the base. This is the sustain, the support of that provide all the infrastructure and services to support the other transactions. The healthcare customer, in this case, the role of the customer is in the demand side and the technology supplier in the supply side. So when we call it here, we use the color code, the green, the blue, and the pink for the different kind of stakeholders, and the arrows that determine what are the flow of interaction between them. And we see that there are interaction across all these systems, and this is the typical model. So just only to go a little bit more in detail, and this is part of the work that we are doing, and then it's necessary that we are really starting in doing this, is to, let's say, define what are the interactions that will exist between the healthcare customer and Gatekeeper business platform. Why a customer, why a hospital needs to be incorporated in the Gatekeeper ecosystem? This is the first question. So we need to propose a value proposition to them. In order to understand and to make a significant value proposition, what is important is that we understand what are the demands from the healthcare customer to the business platform. Then we have listed some of them. That is not any exhaustive listing. This is part of the work that we are now doing. And for this, we use the expertise and the information that is provided by the representatives of the different stakeholders, representative in the healthcare domain, service demand, and the Gatekeeper platform. Just only to mention examples, the supply of the Gatekeeper is the data platform as a service, access to data spaces, access to big data infrastructure, access to third-party AI-enabled applications, solutions, and services, and so forth. On the contrary, the demand is that they need a pilot environment, simulation environments, access to Gatekeeper data space for production, for training machine learning, for simulations, and so forth. Access to big data infrastructure services, professional training, and the Gatekeeper data platform deployment, customization, integration, and perhaps in some cases, operation. So all of this needs to be really further elaborated. But each of these arrows really represent a set of propositions, demands from one side of needs and propositions to solve that needs in the other direction. We can say the same in this level, technology supply, but the connection between the technology supplier and the healthcare customer. I will not go into this list because we are running out of time now, but there is a big and large offering from the technology supplier, a solution that kills customers' pain. This is additionally a marketing statement, the fundamental. So I have a solution for your problem. Behind of this, there is more services that the technology supplier must provide to healthcare customers. And those services are going to be enabled within the Gatekeeper platform. And for that reason is that the Gatekeeper platform and the technology supplier also has established interactions. In terms of what the Gatekeeper platform is supporting the technology supplier and what the technology supplier is demanding in this moment, the technology supplier works as a demander of service from the Gatekeeper platform. So again, these arrows really represent the trade-off between supplier and demand. And the better we satisfy that demand the more happy the customer will be being part of the gatekeeper ecosystem. So if we go to, this is the first slide. If we go to the second one, this is the consumer space, we have different stakeholders here. For that reason, this marketplace is different to the previous. Model is similar, but it's different. This is a marketplace where individuals, I mean persons, consumers, millions of people can procure services from many different types of suppliers. And we say services, we are talking a very broad or holistic meaning, okay? So we see again in this schema, individual is in the left side because it's in the demand side. And on the right side, again, appears the technology and online service suppliers and other new stakeholder, which is a social care, well-being supplier, just only to represent a very large typology of organizations that today and maybe in the future will be offering specific services that are connected to the health of people. However, they are not hospitals, they are not clinics. For instance, we're talking about a gym chain that offer a specific service, online services to their customers in connection with the physical infrastructures or physical sets that they might offer to them. So individual consumers really are interesting for us, for Gatekeeper, because individual consumers are a big producer of data. And we need that the data that is produced nowadays by individual consumers can be collected securely to be reused for many different other kind of necessities. One of these necessities is research, or can be used in clinical necessities and so forth, so on. So basically, again, we have a crossroad of interactions that are going to be identified and then described in terms of values, in terms of assets that are exchanged through the Gatekeeper business platform. If we go to this one, for the let's say the marketing purist, the first state is a type of business to business model. The second is business to consumer in a big part of this. In particular, those connected to the individual, obviously, because this is the consumer. And it is a mixed, the creation space. If we are in the innovation project, we need to provide the opportunities and the conditions and the environments to enable the creation of new values. Because it is not enough that we say, okay, I'm here with your value and offer to this customer, and we will be happy that the customer, but you produce value, whatever you you can and you are able to do. We consider that we are in condition to create an environment for co-creation of new values. And for that reason is that we enable this space, the creation space. This is the market where Gatekeeper providers, provide a rich environment for developers and technical, for developers, development, testing, and technical and clinical validation of new AI solutions. It is important to say that it's not only to say, okay, I will give you technological tools in order that you can produce your AI application, then you will offer in the marketplace of healthcare or in the marketplace of customers to individuals. But it is an environment that you will be able really to test and produce validation. So that validation is an extremely important condition for Gatekeeper to allow applications and solutions to be hosted in our Gatekeeper business platform. So we see here that again, healthcare appear again here. What is doing healthcare here? In this case, as a supplier. Supplier of what? Supplier of services to technology suppliers which are in the demand side. Because in this moment, suppliers, the technology suppliers are in the demand. They demand services to create new solutions on top of the Gatekeeper platform. So healthcare supplier in this moment is a new opportunity for these organizations here to co-create and to participate in the creation of innovation together with technology suppliers. So for instance, just only to say that they can use healthcare suppliers can offer cohorts of patients to conduct validation clinical testing projects. So, and more. And this is something that we need to elaborate further in our model. So basically, this is my intervention. The business is complex. The model of business is complex, and we need to have a lot of work that connects not only our group, our business cluster, and the activities that I show in the second slide in the business cluster, but also to many others, including the pilots, including the platform cluster, in order that we really connect all these concepts together and elaborate a sustainable, meaningful, and operational or actionable business model. It is a part of the exploitation plan then to be how we will actionate this model. So I will stop here and then give the floor to the next to Marta, who is going to talk on the Gatekeeper ecosystem. In fact, the actors that will interact in the model that I showed before. So Marta, when you want, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to thank Sergio for inviting me here today to talk about the ecosystem in Gatekeeper project. And I would like to thank you, the audience, for attending this presentation. I plan to be brief and give you an overview of the ecosystem approach. For that, I shall only take about 10 minutes of your time. So if you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer them at the end of the session. Talking to the ecosystem, the main objective is to provide an ecosystem co-creation framework resulting from responsible and social innovation principles aiming at engage and generate trust from citizens, healthcare professionals, supply and demand side, extended through open calls to SMEs, startups, and new regions in an open innovation framework. The scaling up and impact of Gatekeeper fundamentally depends on the creation of a viable and committed stakeholders ecosystem that aligns behind the proposed solutions. Trust is a precondition for reliable data sharing, knowledge creation, and value generation. A series of interconnected innovation workshops will reflect the regional and national expertise and a specific range of stakeholders relevant in each pilot site, resulting in a better understanding of how trust is defined, how Gatekeeper solutions are being implemented, and how these solutions can be tuned during implementation to increase stakeholders' acceptability. Next. I would like to give you a short overview about how the universe of Gatekeeper looks like. In this graph, you can see all the stakeholders that have been identified and belong to the ecosystem of Gatekeeper. In the center is the Gatekeeper project platform, and around us we have been identified the possible partners that are entities that seek to create additional professional value to collaborate with platform owners on a stronger level of relationships, such as platform developers or research and innovation centers. In the next level or space, we have identified the producers, who we may also call providers, that are entities interested in providing value on the supply side of the ecosystem, usually seeking for opportunities to improve their business and honing their capabilities towards a better performance, such as a platform service provider or healthcare service provider. And in the last level, we have identified the consumers, who we may also call users, that are entities interested in consuming, accessing the value that is created through and on the platform, such as patients or citizens. Next. As you have seen, Gatekeeper is involving stakeholders from both the supply and the demand side, selected for their strong commitment in demonstrating the impact of Gatekeeper interventions to manage a combination of prevalent and high-risk chronic diseases and comorbidities. Enlargement of the ecosystem from both demand and supply side will be achieved through the organization of open calls. One specifically aiming to scale up on the supply side, integrating new tools in the ecosystem, and the other one to scale up on the demand side, integrating new pilots, entailing new health challenges, homes, neighborhoods, and citizens. At the end, what are we going to offer through this activity? Well, we are going to assess your technology with a large amount of population in an open ecosystem, access evidence of benefits of healthcare services based on artificial intelligence, and better understanding of current needs and gaps of healthcare services. Next. Gatekeeper allocates 1,500,000 euros forecasted funding for the financial support of the third parties that will be selected through open calls. The goal of expanding the Gatekeeper use cases to additional emerging business domains will be achieved by defining those two experiments. The first open call will be open to individual European SMEs, mid-caps, large companies, research institutes, and startups registered in a member state of the European Union. This first round will be targeting entities in the field of artificial intelligence with data to leverage the data facilitated by the combination of healthcare and consumers according to the specific challenge defined by the project. The second round will be open to new sites for developing new cases on the Gatekeeper platform for extending, validating, and evaluating the technologies introduced in Gatekeeper. Those experiments are small-scale projects with a duration up to 1 year. They typically involve 1 and 2 third parties, and they have a clear innovation focus based on Gatekeeper technology. Next. The coordination of the open call activities is split in 3 main activities. The first one is the support provisioning to open call stakeholders. The efforts are concentrated on establishing a concrete methodology to support the open call process. This methodology includes indicative business scenarios, establishments of submission process, evaluation criteria, detailed procedures and requirements for filling the application, negotiation and accounting issues on selected third parties, and IP management issues. The second one is the open call itself. As I explained before, 2 open calls rounds will be performed in the Gatekeeper project. The first one will take place in the second and the third year of the project, which is from March 2021, from the next year, March 2022, and the second will be initiated by the end of the second year, which is from September 2021 to September 2022. And the third activity is the evaluation of the performance activities. It is dealing with the continuous monitoring of activities performed by the new beneficiaries, following also the rules and management procedure of Gatekeeper. Next. The call will be based on the 3 main topics. The first one will be the platform technology, which is answering specific needs to increase the functional value of the platform and other technological gaps. The second one is the pilot management, which is answering specific needs or gaps to increase the value of the current services and possible extensions or adaptation to COVID-19. And the third one is the new services, introducing new services based on artificial intelligence for detection and treatment related to pandemic or chronic disease. Next. To conclude this presentation, I would like to give you an overview about how the proposals will be evaluated. So they will be evaluated with respect to 4 categories: excellence, relevant to the topic addressed by the project; implementation, quality and efficiency of the implementation and the management; impact, potential impact through the development, dissemination and use of project results; and sustainability, a commitment to long-term vision and sustainability of the Gatekeeper project. In order to evaluate the received proposals against criteria, an external expert board in the different fields will be appointed. The expert will be recognized in the fields of clinic, expert of healthcare, medical, integrated care, active and healthy aging, frailty and comorbidities. Technique, experts in artificial intelligence, big data, IoT, digital technology, digital health, mobile and health and assistive technologies. And the business, experts in business, industry, government, policymakers, health economics, evaluation, innovation agency, digital health, and of course, value-based healthcare. Well, that's all I have to say about the ecosystem creation and the different activities to enlarge it. And thank you all for listening. It was really a pleasure being here today. Thank you again for the time.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Marta, for your presentation. I think that this is a crucial activity in the project. We have, first of all, to set up what is the ecosystem, and then we have to enlarge. It's a very big work that we have to accomplish. And okay, thank you for this very detailed description. So I give the floor now to Rohit Ali to talk about the potential exploitation. As I said before, this is a big job that is oriented to make an actionable business model within this ecosystem that has been described by Marta. So Rohit, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you. So I would like to describe some potential of exploitation within my 10 minutes, and I'll try to be very brief. Please pop in your questions in the chat, and thank you for joining. So if we go to the next slide, Sergio. I think it is important for us, and I would like to start off with the definition of exploitation I have in this context of Gatekeeper. So as we all begin with a common understanding of what we are expecting and what we are talking about. So exploitation in our terms, in Gatekeeper, and in this context refers to using the Gatekeeper results for commercial purposes, enabling businesses within Europe or in public policy making, which could be in terms of guidance that we provide for policymakers and so on. We have to remember this is, we have an obligation to ensure that all our public investments are converted into social economic benefits at the end of the project. This is not just an obligation that we have in our minds, but it is also a contractual obligation within our project, and sometimes it goes up to 4 years after the end of the project. So within this context of exploitation, we will always find with our previous experience and within the gatekeeper as well, that there will be a lot of overlaps with communication and dissemination projects, and this is expected, and we expect everything to go hand in hand. So next slide. So here, I just want to give you a brief overview of what the market looks like. Now, we understand that most of the EU market in this sector is driven by actual aging population. And on an average, we have seen around 10% of gross domestic products is spent on healthcare as well. So this opportunity is huge for Gatekeeper. And the market for smart homes and age-friendly places is also forecasted to grow very significantly in the coming years. And at the end, I think this is where we position Gatekeeper as a response to real market conditions and real market forecasts, right? So this is all we will be using our outputs for better exploitation. So if we go to the next slide. So yes, there is a market condition. So within Gatekeeper, we want to ensure that we intend to reach a TRL level of 7 for every piece of technology that we create. This will give us a very clear potential for exploitation. So our plan is to enable an extensive use of all the project outputs and maximize the impact. I still say it's a plan because we are talking about exploitation, exploiting the results of the project, and we are also looking forward to deliver a better policy innovations as we go along the project. The route of exploitation that we will be following would be through a few of the items that I have listed here, but of course this is not a definitive list and it's not limited to that. Some of the routes, common routes that we will be adopting or using for the exploitation would be using research activities which are outside the project, or creating market products, processes and services through Gatekeeper use cases and piloting, and using standardization as a tool to harmonize the exploitation, and opening up a plain level field for all our EU businesses, basically. We would also look forward to creating startups and joint ventures as we go along the project development path. So next slide. So here we see that there are many components from Gatekeeper that can be very successfully exploited, starting with specifications, standard-based tools. But at the same time, with the help of the large-scale pilots that Gatekeeper already has, we will be able to have a rich corpus of best practices and lesson learned that can be used as a tool or as an item for further exploitation. And if we go to the next slide, I think here I would really like to talk about our next steps, but given the stage at which we are, I think I might as well convert it into a pledge. And I think more of it like a pledge. So here it goes. Yeah. So if I read out the pledge, it will be something like this. We, as an exploitation team, will constantly map potential valuable and exploitable results. We will work proactively to ensure that the expected innovation is closer to market expectations, because this is very, very crucial. And whilst we identify the new market creation, we will strive to ensure that the results meet the real world. And throughout the project, we will be reflecting on potential barriers and obstacles and keep identifying any changes in the market conditions. So this becomes very crucial as well for our exploitation to be successful. We will be constantly making modifications to internal structures within the project, as well as within the pilots that we work with, as required to demonstrate a successful project. And that's pretty much what we would like at this stage to communicate as a pledge from our side. And with this, I would like to just hand over to Paco and back to Sergio. And like I said, we will be open for questions. We will take the questions through the chat and probably address them at the end of the session. But back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rohit, for your good presentation that give us an idea of the big, really huge opportunity for Gatekeeper to impact in the society. We must be coherent in doing this in the next years, of course. And I give the floor to Paco to talk on the impact and socio-economic assessment. Paco, for yours.
Thank you, Sergio, for giving the floor and for the invitation to this webinar. I'll try to be brief, even though it's the first year of the project, but I guess for the first time in my life, we have been doing a lot of work on the socioeconomic impact in the first year of the project, which shows clearly the commitment of Gatekeeper to demonstrate the impact as an innovation action. Next, please. So after the overview of the three other members of the panel, I just want to remind what is the impact we are trying to capture, okay? And it's the expected impacts of the call. So the call mentioned the European-led platform for smart and healthy and independent living at home. So this is what we are trying to build, as Sergio was explaining. But on top of that, or in addition to that, we have to increase the competitiveness of the European ICT industry. So the platform is not just the end product, so to speak, the end services, but also we need to push the European ICT industry to reinforce the role at a worldwide level, okay? This is related with the interoperability, with the best practice, as Rohit was mentioning, but also with the synergies between member states and regions. So when we see Amazon, when we see Netflix, when we see Spotify, they operate across borders, they operate worldwide. And the platform should be also a key player, not within one region, not within one country, but across regions and across countries. We are talking about healthcare, so we are not talking about selling products. So it has to be evidence-based. It has to prove that it's efficient and there is efficiency in the way we do things, because in Europe we are talking about, when we discuss or we address healthcare system, about public money. So efficiency and evidence-based, it's, let's say, compulsory. We need to prove the impact on business, of course, but through what? Through improving the quality of life and the health status of individuals. This is important. We need to capture this impact to see how the values that Sergio was mentioning before could be transformed or impact the quality of life of individuals. And to do that, and this is the last expected impact of the call, is the user acceptance and the validated innovative solution. So the acceptance is not just about users. Sergio was talking about individuals, citizens, and patients, but also business to business. So it should be accepted by, let's say, the end users, being individuals or patients, but also through other business, because we have to make sure that the platform will be sustainable. If not just users come to the platform, but we understand that users are also other businesses. Next, please. This is just a simplification of the platform. All the steps that Sergio was mentioning before, we are trying to capture this in this sketch. Gatekeeper is going to be a platform. Gatekeeper will have several sides. On the one hand, we have the healthcare side. So we will operate within the healthcare system, quotes and quotes, market, but we will also have the side on the consumers, as Sergio was saying. So we will operate on the consumer side, okay? And then the third side we envisage is on business. So we will operate also, the platform will operate also in the business to business market side, okay? So all the expected impacts, to make these expected impacts real, Gatekeeper should operate within these three dimensions: healthcare system, consumer side, and business sides, okay? And then the fourth pillar Sergio was mentioning on the organization and the and the organization and governance side is the dark blue, where we say organization of value creation. How we capture all this governance in order to make it valuable for the three sides we are mentioning here, okay? And we need to capture the impact on this platform economy, taking into account all the stakeholders mentioned by Marta. So this operates in a multi-stakeholder environment where we have several stakeholders from insurance company to healthcare systems at a regional level to hospital, primary care, patient association, research associations, and so on and so forth. Another important thing, another important remark is that we are capturing value, what we call direct network effect. So a specific company is providing to a healthcare system a specific service, okay? This will be the direct effect we are capturing. On top of that, we need to capture how this direct effect is transformed into an indirect network effect, into an indirect impact. Why this is important? Because we are talking about a platform. Sergio was putting the example of individuals giving their data for research purposes, okay? So this is the type of value we want to capture. Individuals may be receiving a service through the platform from a business, okay? And they maybe say, look, with my data, a third party could do research. This is the type of indirect effect we want to capture in the platform. Again, not just the direct service, but also the potential indirect network effects, obviously taking into account all the GDPR compliance that the platform will provide, okay? Next, please. I will be very brief on this one. Normally, in specific projects, okay, you focus on what I was saying before. It's a provider, provider A giving something to providing a service to a customer. Here is not just it's not just this direct effect. We need to capture other synergies. We need to be able to produce additional synergies. Otherwise, we will not be building a platform, but we just be what we'll be building as a single services. Okay, this is important because we are not just working on one market as a platform. Sergio was explaining, we will be working in different markets. One clear example is the issue of the, let's say, healthcare market and let's say the consumer market for well-being, for example, okay? And then we will benefit between these direct and indirect effects of the information flows, okay? It's important also to emphasize that the platform we are building will be scalable. So we are not producing one case, we are working at EU level, and the platform should be able to scale up the services as many healthcare systems, as many users as possible. And Gatekeeper will be able to do that. Okay, next, please. So to capture this impact, these expected impacts, okay, we are currently working from the month 3, we start working all the different partners together in 8 deployment sites. We do not call them pilots. We call them deployment sites, because what we are doing is to deploy the full ecosystem. We are not just building one pilot on one service, but we are building the full ecosystem and deploying the platform in these in 2 regions in Spain, in Germany, Greece, Italy, UK, Cyprus, and Poland. And these deployment sites will be involving more than 40,000 users. So again, we are not just running one single pilot in one single site, but we are deploying different, let's say, ecosystems within the Gatekeeper environment. How we are doing that? First of all, working as a team in the different partners together. I think this is a strong strength of Gatekeeper. We have different profiles, from clinicians to engineers to health economists to managers, working all together. And we have set up from the month 3 what we want to achieve. Okay, what do we want to achieve? Whether, which is what we call type 1, what this program, this set of interventions want to achieve within the Gatekeeper ecosystem, whether we can attribute this just to our intervention or to the full ecosystem. So there we're trying to capture not just the direct effects, but also the indirect effects. And then the type 3, what we call type 3, is how we can learn, how we can make this, what Rohit was mentioning before, how we can set up rules, how we can set up guidelines for the future, for the next business coming to Gatekeeper, for the next regional or healthcare ecosystems coming to Gatekeeper. By doing that, we are putting let's say, an output, an outcome, and learning for better intervention. So this is the purpose. It's not just about what is the output, but also what is the outcome and the impact, and how we can learn. This is the purpose. Then we are putting in place several analytical tasks. Okay, so we are working together with the deployment side, together with the health systems involved and the companies involved, several methods. We are using multiple approaches to assess the different outputs and outcomes, and therefore we are using several tools. Okay, the important thing is that we are building a framework that we will be able to track all of this and to, let's say, codify this into a product too, as Rohit was saying. Okay, next, please. This is how we started. Okay, we are in 1 year, and this is how we are collecting and let's say nudging and influencing how Gatekeeper works. Okay, this is very simple. It's input, output, outcomes, in the direct and intermediary, to capture the impact. And for each of them, we are putting different, let's say, experimental methods, okay, observational methods, and code-related methods. Again, it's not a specific intervention what we are trying to do here. The platform will support several types of interventions. So we need to be able to capture this value Sergio was mentioning from scratch and using different methods, from operational evaluation, what comes in and what goes out, to monitoring and benchmarking, to understand how different services are provided different outcomes, okay, and also to provide what Marta was mentioning before, this evidence-based value-based care. Okay, this is why we are putting together all the instruments and putting together this co-creation space to generate the evidence. Okay, next, please. This is one example of how we are capturing the value. Okay, and it's simple. It's at the end of the day, we discuss in a multidisciplinary teams what we want to do, okay, together with the deployment side, and we just start putting all this into templates, okay? These templates will allow us to monitor and to measure what we are doing, to be able to capture and to show at the end of the day this value that we want to generate, okay? And this then will fit into the exploitation plan, okay? And will fit into the dissemination plan. So at the end of the day, we are doing a collective effort to be able to produce different type of evidence for different type of audience. In some cases, it could be a randomized control trial, because we need to move across the medical device directive in some cases. In other cases, we do not need that, because we just need to demonstrate the return of investment. What we are putting in place is different objectives with different instruments to get different results. This is one example of how we are doing that together with colleagues from UPM, Universidad Politécnica of Madrid. Next, please. And then just to finalize, on top of all the other methods and instruments we are using, the call was mentioning cost effectiveness, okay? As a one of the, you need one of the evidence you have to prove to show efficiency, okay? And the call mentioned MAFEIB as a tool to run this cost effectiveness analysis. So all our deployment sites, the 8 sites, will use cost effectiveness analysis. So this decision analytical modeling, okay, just to make sure that the results of a specific intervention are cost effective, meaning that let's say the procurator at the end of the project can make sure that the value they are getting for the money they are paying, it's good enough, okay? In this regard, it's important to emphasize that we are running this exercise not just at the end, but also at a pre-commercial stage, ex ante. Before launching the pilots, we are gonna model with hypothesis how it looks like the intervention, okay? This will allow us to, let's say, to see what is the result in the middle with the data, and at the end, when we finish the project, to see what we have learned, what are the costs, what are the quality of the improvements in quality of life needed from the citizens to make the interventions within the gatekeeper cost effectiveness. And again, this is important not just for the buyers, okay, for the healthcare system, for the insurance companies, for the companies that will be able or wants to invest, and also for the policymakers if they want to decide which technology they want to buy, okay? And we are doing this, providing this cost effectiveness as a services through all the deployment sites. Next, please. I think this is that was the last one for me. Thanks a lot.
Paco, and then thank you to all the participants. Now this is say the last slide of our webinar today. I hope that we have be able to transmit you the huge size in the activity in this cluster, and the relative importance that is in the global description of Gatekeeper.